Equi stood before the altar, his voice carrying solemn authority as he declared that this very place was the destination they had sought through countless dangers. At his words, all eyes turned toward him. Qin Yuan frowned in confusion and asked whether this was truly where the supreme treasures of the great ruins lay hidden. Equi replied calmly that everyone present should already feel the overwhelming bloodline pressure permeating the area. For cultivators of body refinement alone, this aura was itself a priceless boon. Moreover, the sacred remains he had spoken of were submerged within the blood pond before them. At once, gazes dropped toward the pond. Hanli also peered down, yet even with his keen sight, he saw only dense layers of bleached bones beneath the blood, unable to confirm whether the holy remains were truly there. Fujian asked whether retrieval required entering the pond. Equi snorted coldly, warning that such an act would be no different from suicide. The bloodline force within was beyond imagination. Stepping inside would only add one's own bones to the countless remains below. When Sun Tu asked what could be done, Equi explained that the pond was formed atop a blood sacrificial array, with the 5 stone statues serving as its pillars. All city lords would need to activate the array together to draw the remains out. Qin Yuan then raised the doubt that weighed on everyone's heart. None of them had ever entered the Great Ruins before. Yet Equi seemed uncannily familiar with every detail. Equi answered without hesitation, claiming he had once discovered an ancient plaque in the Scalptia spatial domain that hinted at a secret land. Though unnamed, its descriptions matched the Great Ruins, and his suspicions had been confirmed along the journey. Whether they believed him or not, he urged them to trust him one final time. Hanli inwardly dismissed the tale as likely fabricated, yet there was no way to refute it. Having come this far, no one was willing to leave empty-handed. Sun Tu declared his trust, but suggested that everyone thoroughly inspect the area for hidden dangers before activating the array. The proposal won unanimous approval, and Equi readily agreed. The group split up to examine the altar encircling the pentagonal pond. Han Li chose to inspect the outskirts with Shi Chuankong rather than approach Chen Yang. Chen Yang, after glancing at them, moved toward one of the black statues with Xuanyuan Xing close behind. The remaining city lords each claimed one of the other statues. Sun Tu studied a statue's elongated neck, then injected a thread of star power into it. Receiving no response, he swept his hand across the pond, drawing a strand of crimson mist that coiled up his sleeve before dissipating. Reassured, he turned his gaze toward Fang Chan, who leaned over the railing with glazed eyes and drool at his lips, staring at the blood pond as if at a lavish feast. Sun Tu sharply warned him to keep away, then promised that once the remains were retrieved, he would secure a portion for him. Fang Chan's face lit up with joy. Elsewhere, Fujian examined another statue while Duan Tong followed uneasily. Through voice transmission, Duan Tong confessed a sense of foreboding and offered to operate the array in Fujian's place. Fujian declined, explaining that Equi required the city lords themselves and that Duan Tong's cultivation might not suffice. He reassured Duan Tong that he had means to protect himself should anything go awry. Qin Yuan watched from afar, exchanging a knowing glance with Fujian. After careful inspection of the statues, pond, and surrounding ground, no hidden dangers were found. Hanli slowly moved inward, pausing at each stone pillar to study the carved patterns. Suddenly, he sensed someone beside him and found Zhu Ziqing smiling at his side. She remarked that her brother believed there was more to him than met the eye. Hanli replied indifferently that he was merely a gladiator from Green Goat City. Zhu Ziqing laughed lightly, saying that for a human to refine his body to such a degree was already extraordinary. Noticing his sister's absence, Zhu Ziyuan called out sharply. Zhu Ziqing stuck out her tongue playfully before returning to his side, tugging at his sleeve. Hanli watched with a faint smile, reminded of his own youngest sister from a distant village, though the memory had long faded with time. Zhu Ziyuan offered Hanli an apologetic nod and departed. Meanwhile, Chen Yang circled his chosen statue, his eyes darting restlessly. Xuanyuan Xing called out to him, snapping him from his thoughts. Without explanation, Chen Yang strode to the railing, produced a yellow spear etched with lightning, and hurled it through the gap into the blood pond. A thunderous explosion followed as white lightning blossomed within the blood, scattering crimson mist yet failing to escape the pond. The sudden blast startled everyone, and they saw the blood churn violently, waves crashing against the five walls. Qin Yuan shouted in fury, demanding to know what Chen Yang was doing. Chen Yang replied calmly that he was merely probing for abnormalities. Equi spared the pond a brief glance before returning his focus to the statue, while the others stood in silence. Before long, the blood settled once more, and nothing unusual revealed itself. Ace, all have seen enough. Shall we now speak of activating the array and drawing forth the remains? It was no small matter to reach this place. I trust none of you came merely to admire the scenery. Equi said calmly, though an undercurrent of impatience slipped through his tone. The other city lords sensed nothing unusual and could delay no longer. After exchanging brief glances, they gathered around him. By then, Han Li and Shi Chuang Kong had circled to the far side of the altar. Beyond it, 3 additional white stone arch bridges stretched into the depths of darkness. No flames illuminated that region, and whatever lay beyond was hidden from sight. Hearing Equi's call, the two halted, hesitated briefly, then returned to the group. I have verified most of the inscriptions on the stone plaque, Equi said once everyone had assembled. They appear trustworthy. I propose we follow the method recorded there to activate the altar. In that case, please instruct us, City Lord Yi, Qin Yuan replied. This blood sacrificial array possesses 5 cores. It requires 5 cultivators to activate them simultaneously. I ask the other city lords to enter the array with me. Your cultivation and physiques are best suited to endure the immense pressure it will generate. The rest shall stand watch. In this way, all cities contribute, and all will be worthy of their share of the spoils. Silence fell, suspicion thick in the air. Equi did not press them, merely observing the 4 city lords in quiet patience. City Lord Yi, Sun Tu said at last, what dangers might arise during activation? It would be wise for us to know. On the path of cultivation, peril and fortune walk hand in hand, Equi replied with a faint smile. How much one gains depends on how much one dares. Fujian frowned. What do you mean? When the array activates, vast bloodline power will escape the blood pond as mist and pour into the bodies of those at the 5 cores. That power may temper and strengthen our flesh, or overwhelm us, leading to self-destruction, thus risk and reward. Then all 5 of us may absorb this bloodline power to enhance our bodies? Fujian asked eagerly. Excitement spread among the group, save for Chen Yang, Sun Tu, and Han Li, whose expressions remained guarded. Han Li's instincts warned him that the array concealed deeper dangers, ones Equi was deliberately minimizing. Moreover, his true interest lay elsewhere, likely beyond the 3 bridges swallowed by darkness. Indeed, Equi said, but the process will be unbearably painful. We must endure until the holy remains are drawn from the pond. Sun Tu's brow furrowed. Yet our bodies have limits. The bloodline power here is immense. What if we are all overwhelmed before the remains emerge? The 5 cores are linked, Equi answered evenly. Should one of us near overload, the excess power will be evenly distributed among the others, maintaining balance. Thus, no one bears greater risk than another. If one perishes, all perish. Even so, the danger is considerable, Sun Tu murmured. If City Lord Sun hesitates, I will gladly take his place, Xiao Ying said with a smile. There's no need, Elder Xiao, Sun Tu replied. Though I have doubts, I will fulfill my duty. If the power grows unbearable, I will lead everyone out together, Equi assured them. Follow my instructions and all will be well. Any further questions? None spoke. Equi nodded. Then learn the activation method. We enter once ready. He recited the method openly. Moments later, he swept his sleeve. Enter the array. The 5 city lords rose as one, landing atop the heads of the 5 statues. Han Li and the others withdrew to a distance, watching from afar. Seated cross-legged, the city lords chanted and formed seals. At first, the array lay dormant. Gradually, crimson mist within the pond gathered at the 5 corners, exposing churning blood beneath. The statues began to change. Han Li noticed first. Fine patterns surfaced on the statue beneath Chen Yang, resembling scales at a glance. As they glowed red, it became clear they were tiny runes akin to star sigils. When all 5 statues lit up, their eyes snapped open, glowing crimson. A deep rumble shook the altar. The blood pond roiled violently as corkscrew pillars of crimson mist rose upward. The statues opened their mouths, drawing in the mist. Pentagram arrays appeared atop their heads, and pillars of crimson light enveloped the 5 city lords. Bloodline power surged into their bodies through every orifice, staining their skin red. The runes flared brighter. Crimson light burst from the statue's wings, linking into a barrier that sealed the blood pond. Duantong stiffened, but Xiaoying reassured him. Merely a barrier of the array, it will fade once the array ceases. Within the barrier, the city lord's eyes burned crimson, crystal clusters forming around them like scales. Anxiety, anticipation, and fierce excitement warred across their faces. After careful observation, Chen Yang confirmed the barrier carried no restraining force, for he exchanged a glance with Sun Tu. Should disaster strike, escape remained possible. Fu Jian and Qin Yuan reached the same conclusion, their minds settling as they devoted themselves fully to sustaining the array. Qin Yuan suddenly threw back his head and released a long roar. His pallid, sickly complexion flushed a vivid crimson, and an excited brilliance lit his eyes, utterly unlike his usual frail demeanor. Though no wind stirred, his robes snapped and fluttered, and countless specks of white light blossomed across his body. Of these, more than 200 shone solid and distinct, while the rest flickered like phantoms, vague and insubstantial. Moments later, the same phenomenon appeared upon Chen Yang, Fu Jian, and Sun Tu. Equi was no exception, yet the number of solid lights upon him far exceeded the others. More than 800 gleaming points pulsed steadily across his form. Brother Li, Shi Chuangkong transmitted quietly, those lights seem to align with their profound acupoints. Could these be the acupoints they've opened? There are far too many for that alone, Hanli replied after a pause. The solid lights should be opened profound acupoints. The illusory ones are likely those yet unopened. Still, his voice trailed off, brows knitting in thought. What troubles you? When we first met Chen Yang, he claimed Equi had opened over 1,000 profound acupoints, yet we see fewer than 900 now. Perhaps he exaggerated to intimidate us, Shi Chuangkong guessed. Perhaps we'll ask him later, Han Li said. As they spoke, the crimson glow pouring from the 5 pentagram arrays upon the stone statues flared fiercely. The 5 city lords cried out as their faces twisted in agony. Crimson light surged into their unopened acupoints, condensing into solid radiance one by one. Their auras climbed rapidly, proof that the bloodline power was nourishing them greatly. Envy flickered across many watching eyes. Within the pentagonal blood pond, the blood churned like boiling water, crimson mist billowing upward to be devoured by the statues. As the liquid receded, pale bones emerged beneath the surface, hinting that the ancient remains below would soon rise into view. Hanli scrutinized the array from beginning to end and sensed nothing amiss, yet unease lingered faintly in his heart. I'll check the rear, he transmitted to Shi Chuangkong. Stay here. If something happens, remain uninvolved until I return. If danger is coming, shouldn't I go with you? Shi Chuangkong asked. We don't know what lies ahead. One of us must stay and watch this place. Besides, appearing too close may raise suspicions, Hanli answered. Though unconvinced, Shi Chuangkong agreed. Hanli circled the light barrier around the blood pond and headed toward the 3 stone arch bridges beyond the altar. After only a few steps, Xiaoying barred his path. Where are you going, fellow Taoist Li? Shi Chuangkong moved to intervene, but Hanli stopped him with a thought. The city lords are busy. I can't assist, so I plan to explore, Hanli said calmly. This is a critical moment. You should stay and watch your city lord. Xiaoying replied coldly. He has others guarding him, Hanli countered. I won't allow you to wander. What if you trigger a trap and disrupt the array? Xiaoying pressed. Move aside, Hanli sneered. Others may fear you. I do not. If you want to fight, I'll oblige. Xiaoying hesitated. A clash here would spiral into chaos and might disrupt the blood array, an outcome he dared not risk. Before he could respond, Hanli flashed past him, moving so swiftly that Xiaoying failed to react. Startled, Xiaoying retreated hastily, apprehension flickering in his eyes. Hanli paid him no further heed and crossed toward the bridges. All attention remained fixed on the city lords, and the brief confrontation went largely unnoticed. Juzi King watched Hanli depart with curiosity, while Mistress Liu Hua frowned in quiet puzzlement, yet neither could follow. The 3 stone arch bridges at the rear mirrored those at the front. Hanli crossed the central bridge once more and arrived at a smaller plaza, where 2 massive stone gates loomed. Darkness reigned here, unlit by flames, yet his keen eyes discerned a carved, beastly visage upon the gates. A scaled lion's head with a single horn, split cleanly down the center, each half etched into one gate. Hanli recalled Taoist She's jade slip and murmured, "The scaled Hao Guardian. This is the place." He did not push the gates. Instead, he pressed the protruding fangs of the carving. A faint click echoed as the remaining fangs slid aside, revealing a pitch-black opening. After a brief survey, Hanli slipped inside. The opening sealed behind him with a soft crack. Darkness swallowed all sight. Then, a faint splash echoed ahead. Hanli activated his Titan Vajra arts, and white light bloomed from the profound acupoints along his arms, revealing the top of a stone staircase. He could see only a few steps ahead, yet he descended steadily. After nearly 20 steps, the stairs leveled into a platform. The sound of dripping water grew clearer. He approached a short stone pillar topped by a shallow basin filled with black, foul-smelling liquid, likely beast fat. A droplet fell, sending ripples across the surface. Hanli flicked his fingers. A spark of star power fell into the basin, and flame erupted instantly. Twin streams of fire surged outward, racing along the carved grooves branching from the pillar. The hidden passage began to awaken. Hanli's eyes traced the creeping line of fire as it slithered across the ground, stretching for over 1,000 feet before finally halting. In the next breath, flames burst forth on both sides, roaring skyward and flooding the entire space with blazing light. He swept his gaze across his surroundings, shock flickering across his features. The cavern spanned 2,000 to 3,000 feet, its walls carved with colossal reliefs, lofty mountains piercing the clouds, raging rivers surging through valleys, majestic cities standing proud, and countless other breathtaking scenes. Forests filled with strange beasts sprawled across the stone while cultivators soared through the skies, as if the walls depicted a living world beyond the Scalptia spatial domain. Why would such scenes exist here? Had some ancient hand carved them out of longing for the outside world? Hanli approached, examining each relief with care. He soon realized the carvings were disjointed, lacking any clear connection or sequence. Pressing deeper into the space, his steps halted before a massive black stone coffin nearly 30 feet long. Etched upon its surface was the image of a male puppet, strings tied to every joint, suspending it stiffly in midair. The sight was eerie, its expression lifeless and limbs rigid. The strings crawled across the coffin's surface, converging above the puppet's head into a yin-yang symbol. Yet conspicuously absent were the surrounding 8 trigrams. After a moment's hesitation, Hanli pressed his hand against the symbol. It yielded slightly. Joy flickered in his eyes. Chanting softly, he applied pressure. The yin-yang sank inward with a grinding rumble as the coffin slid down, revealing a transparent crystal cube 5 inches across. Within lay a hollow silver sphere etched with unfathomably complex patterns, emitting strange fluctuations akin to soul power. So this is it. He studied the sphere, then swept his gaze around the crystal container. Just as his hand moved to take it, a subtle unease stirred within him. He lifted his head, re-examined the surrounding reliefs, then returned to replace the coffin lid. Pacing slowly, he recalled the jade slip's contents until a crucial detail surfaced in his mind. Realization dawned. Circling behind the coffin, he traced a relief with his fingers before pressing down upon an engraved sun. A faint click sounded as it sank into the wall. His eyes gleamed. Moving swiftly, he pressed a cloud within a storm relief, then a river, then a mountain on successive carvings. The jade slip had mentioned that the 8 trigrams were hidden within these reliefs. That was why none encircled the yin-yang. As the final mechanism was triggered, the entire space trembled violently. The stone coffin sank unsteadily, revealing a narrow passage beneath. A faint smile touched Hanli's lips. The entrance was barely wide enough for one person, a stone staircase descending into darkness. Hanli stepped down, turning left after a dozen steps toward an opening glowing with white light. He emerged into a compact chamber less than 200 feet across, nearly empty. Star bones densely embedded in the walls radiated pale light, illuminating the space. Against the far wall stood a rectangular black stone table bearing 2 exquisitely crafted white jade boxes. After ensuring the area was safe, Hanli opened the first box. Inside rested a fist-sized black sphere, hollow and inscribed with intricate patterns. It emitted no aura and seemed unremarkable, far less impressive than the silver sphere above. Yet as he examined it closely, hair-thin arcs of golden lightning flickered deep within. This is no common object. He tucked it carefully into his robe and turned to the second jade box. Embedded within its lid was a round disc covered in complex patterns, its rim lined with two circles of holes, each concealing a tiny golden rune beneath. When Hanli attempted to lift it, the box refused to move, fused firmly to the table. Profound acupoints flared along his arms as he exerted more force. The box and table shuddered, yet remained immovable. Raising an eyebrow, he struck it with a punch. Starlight burst forth, unleashing a powerful recoil that forced him back a step. Taoist Shi's jade slip had warned him to secure the black sphere, but said nothing of this. Frowning, Hanli summoned even greater strength and struck again. This time the backlash hurled him several steps backward until his back hit the wall. He snorted coldly, preparing a fiercer blow, then froze. A crack had spread beneath his feet, extending directly under the table. If he continued, this entire space would collapse, and time was running short. As he prepared to leave, his eyes caught a small, incomplete image of a starry sky etched into the floor, illuminated by the star bone's glow. He studied it intently until sudden enlightenment struck. So that's it! Drawing out the Starwave pen, he carefully restored the missing portions. When he finished, the starry image blazed with radiant light. Mechanical clicks echoed as the disc on the jade box began to rotate, and the box sprang open. Delight flashed across Hanli's face. Inside lay a folded sheet of pale gray beast hide. He unfolded it, revealing a pentagonal underground altar, each corner crowned by a statue of a strange winged beast. It was identical to the blood sacrificial altar where the 5 city lords now stood. At the top were the words, "Weeping Blood Array." Hanli examined every detail. The array matched the one outside perfectly, yet here the blood pond was vast beyond imagination, its engraved patterns impossibly complex. Annotations surrounded the image, explaining key functions and hidden mechanisms. Understanding dawned with chilling clarity. At last, his gaze settled on a note in the lower right corner. A faint, knowing smile curved across his lips. At this moment, the 5 city lords remained seated upon their stone statues, jointly driving the grand array from outside. Profound acupoints across their bodies flared open one after another, radiating vast power. Chen Yang alone now had more than 290 profound acupoints glowing, having opened nearly 30 in an astonishingly short time. Sun Tu and the others were in much the same state, and joy flickered across their faces at this unexpected gain. The surrounding onlookers watched with envy burning in their eyes, yet none dared voice dissatisfaction. The gulf in strength and status between them and the 5 city lords was simply too great. The array roared into faster motion. The pentagram formations beneath the 5 city lords expanded several-fold, releasing ever thicker pillars of crimson radiance. The crimson barrier surrounding the site grew denser, its countless runes humming faintly as if alive. Even the stone statues themselves transformed, their black surfaces darkening into deep crimson as rays of blood-red light burst forth, forming an eerie and majestic spectacle. The 4 subsidiary city lords studied these changes uneasily. Sun Tu and Chen Yang exchanged a glance, each seeing the same trace of unrest in the other's eyes. Yet no suppressive force emerged from the crimson barrier, and that alone offered them some comfort. Below, the blood within the vast pond receded sharply, exposing enormous skeletal remains. It seemed the bottom was close at hand. Suddenly, the blood boiled violently, spiraling into a massive vortex dozens of feet wide. From its depths emerged a great sphere of crimson light, pulsing with terrifying power. The fluctuations carried both star power and bloodline might, eerily similar to the energy of sulphurous flame blood clouds, yet vastly stronger. Even the subsidiary city lords were shaken to their cores. Could that be the holy remains? Sun Tu asked, barely concealing his excitement. Though the other profound city cultivators could not see the crimson sphere, they clearly felt the overwhelming pressure rippling through the air. The holy remains have appeared. Fellow Taoists, one final push. Equi shouted with unrestrained elation. The five city lords immediately intensified their chants and hand seals. The blood surged upward in five towering pillars, pouring directly into the statues beneath them. In mere moments, the pond was completely drained. The scale-like patterns on the statues flashed wildly, their color shifting from dark crimson to brilliant red. At the same time, the true form of the crimson sphere was revealed. It was a door of light, within which lay what seemed to be another world. Terrifying energy poured out, yet no holy remains were visible at all. With the blood gone, the pressure only grew more fearsome. What is the meaning of this, City Lord E? Where are the holy remains? Sun Tu demanded darkly, the other city lords turning toward Equi as well. Equi ignored them, eyes shut, hands still weaving seals. Suddenly, blinding crimson light erupted from the statue beneath him, bathing his body in red. Several thick tendrils of crimson radiance lashed out, then plunged into his flesh. His body convulsed before going still. When he opened his eyes, they burned a vivid crimson. His frame swelled grotesquely, red patterns crawling over his skin, transforming him into something demonic. Shock seized the other city lords. Qinyuan leapt to flee, but crimson light exploded from his lower abdomen, forming a cloud that swallowed half his body. Countless runes shimmered within, resonating with his statue and locking him in place. The same fate struck the remaining three city lords almost simultaneously. Crimson clouds erupted from their bodies, immobilizing them completely. The surrounding cultivators rushed forward in alarm, only to have their path blocked by Xiao Ying, Zhu Ziyuan, and Zhu Ziqing. Xiao Ying's aura burst forth like a suffocating mountain. The five city lords are operating the array. It would be wise for you all to remain where you are, he said coldly. Faces paling, the crowd halted. Only Mistress Liu Hua remained calm, as though she had expected all of this. Within the array, Equi gazed at the four trapped city lords. All warmth had vanished from his eyes. Their hearts sank. For what reason are you doing this, City Lord E? Fujian asked, forcing a strained smile. The holy remains have yet to emerge. Naturally, I cannot allow any of you to leave, Equi replied lightly. I sensed your hesitation, so I merely ensured your cooperation. You planned this from the start, Sun Tu snarled. How did you manage it? The sulphurous flame blood clouds, Chen Yang cried, sudden realization dawning. Equi laughed. Precisely, I knew none of you could resist them. Qin Yuan turned on Sun Tu and Fujian in disbelief, realizing they too had concealed their own gains. Fury spread through the group. You will understand my intentions soon enough, Equi said, forming new seals. The array instantly grew vastly more complex. Crimson light surged from the statues into the bodies of the four city lords. They struggled in vain as writhing red patterns crawled over their skin, drawing cries of agony and panic from their followers. City Lord Sun, Fang Chan shouted, charging forward with others in tow. Shi Chuangkong, however, retreated under Han Li's prior instruction. Xiao Ying sneered and swept his hand, 5 sword-like bursts of power cleaving the earth and halting all advance. Elsewhere, Han Li was returning toward the group when his body abruptly locked up and he collapsed. Crimson light erupted from his lower abdomen, forming a cloud that engulfed him. A quick scan revealed the truth. The sulphurous flame blood clouds had been altered. Twin crimson clouds churned within his body, countless runes releasing immense restraining force, leaving him utterly immobilized.